Okay. So we are reading from, for those who don't know, we're reading from Bhikkhu Bodhi's anthology that's called Social and Communal Harmony. It's an anthology of discourses from the Buddha's teachings. And we are on the section on the intentional community. So we are up to on page 115. 4 means of embracing others. Aha. Yes. Okay. Monks, there are these 4 means of embracing others. What for? Giving, endearing speech, beneficent conduct, and impartiality. These are the 4 means of embracing others. Giving, endearing speech, beneficent conduct, and impartiality under diverse worldly conditions as is suitable to fit each case. These means of embracing others are like the linchpin of a rolling chariot. If there were no such means of embracing others, neither mother nor father would be able to obtain esteem and veneration from their son. But these means of embracing exist, and therefore the wise respect them. Thus, they attain to greatness and are highly praised. Wow. What do you think, Canda?
I think that I'm not taking it in, so I think you better say something.
Yeah, okay.
My brain has short fuse.
Okay, I'll read it again. Okay, I'll read it again. Monks, there are these 4 means of embracing others. What for? Giving, endearing speech, beneficent conduct, and impartiality. These are the 4 means of embracing others. Giving, endearing speech, beneficent conduct, and impartiality under diverse worldly conditions, as is suitable to fit each case. These means of embracing others are like the linchpin of a rolling chariot. If there were no such means of embracing others, neither mother nor father would be able to obtain esteem and veneration from their son. But these means of embracing exist, and therefore the wise respect them. Thus they attain to greatness and are highly praised. Yeah. So we have so many ways of relating to bosses, to colleagues, to parents, and often it's just business, isn't it? You want to, this is what I need, I'll tell you and you tell me what I need, and okay, we've done that transaction and thanks very much, put down the phone, But, and our whole life seems to be, we, get this done, get that done. And we finished all our business for today, and therefore we have now embraced each other and and finished for the day. Even with your own family and children, it's like, did you do that? Yeah. You brush your teeth. But we forget that that is actually not what it means to be with other people. To be with other people is not a, it's not a business transaction. It is, what do we give? What do we give? And we give of ourselves, isn't it? We give of ourselves. But yeah, so so giving, endearing speech. Like I said, often we have we just want to get the job done, but how do we do it? Does it come from that heart of how is my speech a gift, even if it is just to someone on the phone, or someone in the shop? Is my speech a gift to somebody? It makes you happy, doesn't it? It's not just because I've been on the phone the last couple of days finding venues for Ajahn Brahm's talks, for Ajahn Brahm's retreat, and you can really get into, okay, thanks, okay, 150 people, yep, you don't have a room, thanks, bye. But but your speech is a gift. Your speech is a gift. What do people think?
Hey, is someone going to ask them to unmute, or shall I do?
Sarah, can I ask you to unmute, please?
You should be able to unmute, Sarah. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Do you want me to speak, or?
Yes, please.
Yeah. What if it's a situation where you've got to give quite negative feedback? Because it's hard, especially in the moment. Because I've had a situation just recently, well, two situations. I mean, one with the police, over a situation where, I mean, it wasn't, it was very, very much depends how you see mine, but somebody had threatened to punch me in the face, and the police came round, and he said, well, I didn't get this case until a month after the event, and I couldn't do anything. And obviously, I wasn't happy because it was in a Chinese and there was video recording, and it's just very hard, because my understanding is that Buddhism isn't just all about giving lovely, positive feedback. Sometimes we have to give feedback that's critical, and actually that is beneficial. But I suppose, how do you save the person's face, if you see what I mean?
Very hard. I'm bad at this. I have lots of theories.
What's your theory? How does it work in reality?
In reality, is I avoid the situation. But I have the theory. The theory is that I think that may I come from a place that is not of blaming, but out of compassion. That person is also in a confused, just as I am, that person also is deluded. They're probably, don't really know what they're doing. And and if I go, here is someone equally confused. How can I speak to someone who is in pain, really? Yeah. So I really do try and change my mind from one of criticalness to one of compassion, because all of us are deluded. So we all do things that are not right, to a greater or lesser degree. So bearing that in mind, I cannot expect everyone to behave according to the rule book my rule book. So yeah, it's really helpful. It's really helpful to train my own mind to to train my own mind to have compassion.
Yeah.
It doesn't come automatically. What comes automatically is, how come they're not doing that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if can you hear me still? Yeah. It's just in the moment, sort of in the because it's sort of just recently I've sort of been much more shoot from the hip rather than be, sort of gentle sort of response, and I had a new television delivered and very patronizing young man, and it's just very hard because you want to stop them in the moment because they're talking to you, as though you're stupid and you don't know anything about your TV that you've just spent hours researching before you bought it, and it's just very difficult, but I just have to try and remember that. Is that something meditation can teach us?
Yeah, it is. Well, I have certain rules of thumb. Like if I'm feeling a bit agitated, my rule of thumb is don't say anything,
Yeah.
I've kind of, for good or for bad, maybe I should say things when I shouldn't say things, but my kind of rule of thumb is, if feeling odd, say nothing.
Yeah. But then what happens later? I'm sorry because I'm sort of taking up a lot of stuff, but what happens then later when it's still going round in your mind, but it's unresolved? So I felt, by just not letting this man sort of, well, I mean, really, he's a young lad, walk all over me, I sort of felt, I didn't feel so disturbed later, if you see what I mean.
Right. Well, we all have ways of dealing with it. Mine is not particularly skillful, I don't know, but I generally don't say anything, maybe when I should, but and then it goes around in my head, but I kind of feel that is better than having let bad words out of my mouth and then hurt other people. I can't take them back.
Yeah.
And it hasn't, I can't take them back. So for good or for bad, I prefer to slowly, the pain of working through it myself and becoming, it may go around in my head. I may talk to somebody about it, but rather than that bad word come out in the heat of the moment, that's my unenlightened strategy. Yeah. What would you say?
That's great. I think we should go to Emily.
Emily, can I ask you to unmute, please?
I'm curious about the word endearing, and I really like that word. And it seems different to me than saying, I actually forget, it was endearing speech, endearing words. I forget exactly how it was written, but it seems different to me than maybe the word kind words or kind speech or right words or right speech. And I like the word endearing because I'll often use the word sweetheart, dear, love. And I was just in your part of the world. I was just in the UK last week, and they throw out all sorts of like petal, flower.
Duck. Did you hear duck? Duck. That's in the north. It means duck, like a duck.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to add it to.
All right, duck. All right, love.
So anyway, I'm just wondering if that endearing is placed in there for a particular sense, because when I hear endearing, it's really allowing that person to know that you have taken them in your heart almost. It's almost a little different than just kind, because you can be kind, but endearing to me means, okay, you've just touched my heart. I've just touched your heart. So I'm just wondering about that.
You mean the difference between kind and endearing? Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
The kind and endearing. Yeah, it's interesting that's what the Buddha says, that it is not just okay speech. I didn't say anything bad, but it is endearing speech.
Yeah.
So not just kind of neutral. I said something neutral, but I said something endearing. Yeah.
I actually wonder if this is
Mm.
related to the sandwich method. That we try to kind of find a point of commonality first with a person, and that this is important even if we do have to give feedback that might not be necessarily easy for the person to hear, but we first try to endear them to us, or ourselves to them, to show them that we're on the same page. We care for them. We actually care for them. We respect them. They're human beings like ours, we're not so different, like you were saying. We all have delusion. We all do the wrong things sometimes. We all speak out of turn or rudely in some situations. So I wonder if it's like bringing them on board, kind of focusing on that commonality, the shared humanity, our shared flaws, maybe even, before then saying, and in this situation, when this happens, it's actually quite hard for me sometimes, and I'm sure that I do that too, but in this particular situation, it was not easy to hear this, or whatever it is you might want to tell that person. You first kind of, rather than starting off from a division, whether it's in our mind or in reality, we sort of bring them in. So I wonder if that's related in a way to giving feedback.
Yeah. That we're in this together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not you're wrong,
right,
and I'm right.
Right, because
And
kind can still be at a distance, can't it?
Yeah.
Kindness can be just a manner, but endearing is more like, we're in it together. That's a nice way to say it. Yeah, if that makes sense. But the sandwich method, just to elaborate, is maybe helpful for Sarah too, is that we do have to say, and I think maybe both of us actually are similar, that we struggle to sometimes give the difficult feedback. But it's actually important to do it out of compassion, right? It's not that compassion has to feel good. I mean, sometimes we have to be compassionate by saying, when you act this way, it's actually harmful, it hurts people, or hurt me. But the way to do it is to first note the positive things in that person, give them some positive feedback, endear them in a sense, so that they feel, you're seeing them as a whole person, and then you give a little bit, just a tiny bit of something like a critical feedback, and then again say, but I can really see you're trying, and it's not a big thing. And again, these are the qualities I see, because research has shown that it takes about, I think, 30 seconds for any positive feedback to actually go in. And most of the time, if you try and give people positive feedback, they immediately say, no. They actually reject it immediately. Oh, no, it's you, or it's no, it was nothing. It's our habit. But negative feedback goes in instantly. It's like 1 second, 2 seconds. Even if it's positive, we take it as negative sometimes. So just make that one small. But first of all, be friendly to the person, so they don't feel defensive, because then it doesn't help anyone, right? I mean, if they're feeling defensive, they just blame you for being a grumpy old what's it, or a young what's it, and it doesn't help. Do you want to read that question?
Okay. Is knowing your audience a knower of the world, so to be effective? A knower of the world, so to be effective.
I'm not sure I understand that question either.
Do you want to?
Does it say knower of the world here?
No, it doesn't. We had.
I guess that's one of the qualities of the Buddha. So maybe they're saying, do you want to speak to put that question? so we can really be sure we understand you. I think,
Right.
I guess what you say, you don't have to, but okay. What are some that's another question. That's another question. So I think what you're saying probably is that if we understand the people who we're speaking to, we might understand how to address them most effectively. I mean, obviously we can't always understand that if we've just met somebody, but certainly, you know, once we actually enter relationships with people and we start to know their kind of tendencies, the way that they like to be spoken to or not, or you know, whether they're tired or not, etc., then yeah, definitely, because the Buddha's all about kind of not only where you're coming from, but is that person in the right state of mind to receive whatever you want to say. So one of the factors of right speech, like of time, of you know, one of the things to consider before speaking is whether the speech is timely or not. Yeah, so that can be timely for that other person. Are they in the right mood? Is it confidential? Do they feel exposed? Are they already overwhelmed? Have they already received lots of criticism that day? Yeah, and how to go about that. So definitely that'll be part of it.
I just want to mention there are these 4 things that the Buddha mentioned, said about right speech. One was, is it the right time? And another one was, did you get the facts right? Did you get the facts right? So sometimes we actually think we know what they were talking about, but we've gotten ourselves. We don't have all the information. You know, they were doing something very reasonable, but in our minds it was something wrong. But so did we get the facts right? And is it, are you coming from a heart of loving kindness? And the 4th one is, are the words gentle? That was there as well. Must be Piyavajja.
There's actually 5.
There's 5, yeah. What's the 5th
I think the other one is it true?
Is it true?
But you
Yes,
said
true. Yeah, is it right? Yes. Is
true,
it true?
beneficial.
Beneficial. That's right.
Beneficial.
Is it beneficial? Is it beneficial?
And actually, Piyavajja, if it's Piyavajja, I think the literal meaning is loving words.
Yeah, loving, Piya.
So it's different.
But
it's more like endearing. Yeah, I would have thought it was Piya, but anyway, it must be a derivation. What are some concrete beneficent conducts besides loving, kind speech and generous acts to others? Listening to others. Concrete beneficent conducts. I mean, it's the precepts. It's the opposite of the precepts. Protecting life, being gentle towards life, revering life. So what are all the precepts?
There are the
giving.
opposite.
Then the giving, but that's the
generous,
giving.
open-handed, and delight in sharing. And then the other one was the 3rd one was
being trustworthy. For example, the opposite of sexual misconduct is being trustworthy, being somebody that people can, you do what you say you'll do. You keep your promises, right? This is also part of right speech, but to be loyal, to be trustworthy, to be committed. What are the other precepts? Not to take, we said. And then the speech, but she's saying besides speech and besides generosity. So, but there's different kinds of speech. There's not just loving speech. There's also speech that doesn't waste people's time. So speech that is worth listening to, which is worth recording, which is focused on the Dhamma, which is beneficial for others. Speech which is gentle, as we said. What are the other types of speech? I'm very tired today, so I can't think too much. But yeah, I mean, I think you know it in yourself, don't you, when you're doing something that's beneficial. First of all, it should be coming from a good motivation, the motivation of loving kindness, compassion, non-possession, non-self in a way. I mean, one of the parts I'd like to draw attention to in this is that is the impartiality, which is really interesting. And I think if that wasn't there, that endearingness and that embracing could be very selective. It could be very preferential. But the fact that this is something that we do impartially, whether or not we particularly like a person, whether or not we kind of have the same views or
Mm.
the same background or race or whatever, same sexuality, we can be impartial because all beings suffer. So where are the distinctions really? They're very minor. And in that way, we can endear anybody to us. I mean, the Buddha was the Buddha because he was able to behave this way towards everybody. And what else does it say? Something else about impartiality here.
It just repeats the word impartiality.
Right.
Yeah. Can I say about
Can I just finish
Yeah.
my train of
Yeah.
thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Mm.
I need time. Go for it.
Where it just struck me about impartiality is that we take ourselves so personally, and we take other people so seriously, and everyone is so, solid.
Mm.
And a person that has, they're an ego, and we so don't want to damage that, and we don't want to upset that ego. We don't want to, we want to protect their sense of self. And so all this going around, beating around the bush is just to make sure people's egos don't get damaged, isn't it? But if really that's it, you don't want to, they'll get upset, but it's an ego that's getting upset. But anyway, when you recognize for yourself that that's all you're doing, you're propping up someone's ego.
Usually our own, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we don't
True,
want to be the one that
true,
upsets
true,
someone
true.
else.
True.
We want to be
true,
the good person,
true,
the one
true,
that says
true,
whatever
true,
everyone
true,
wants to
true,
hear,
true,
and that says,
true,
yes, I
true.
can keep talking and ask me another question.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
about propping up our egos.
a lot of it. Yeah.
So I find recognizing that that's
Mm.
what I'm doing. I'm propping up my ego, and I'm helping that person prop up their ego. Just recognizing, said, why am I going into this? Yeah, just to make someone's ego feel safe or whatever. I mean, to some degree, you have to do that.
Yeah.
You have to do that. But
The question what's essential then,
right, Grace says here, it makes you question what is essential in a relationship. So that, yeah, I don't know if that ties in with impartiality, but yeah, because we're I don't know, we're all just non-self. So anyway, that's something I find very useful when it comes to relating to other people. That there's actually nobody there. We're just busy propping up this non-existent sense of self, and spend a lot of energy trying to keep it afloat, ours and others. What a waste of time. Anyway. So, and that's and the other one was beneficent conduct. I don't know what's meant by. Does anyone know the Pali for beneficent conduct? Beneficent conduct. Someone, anyway.
Conduct that's beneficial.
Yeah.
Is it?
Okay.
Yeah. Kusala, maybe.
So yeah, conduct that's beneficial, conduct that is worthy of being a human being, worthy of your precious human life. So yeah, sometimes we're just
yeah, and showing your care and showing your metta through action, isn't it? Attacharya.
Oh,
worthy
Attacharya.
worthy conduct, something like that. Yeah, that's what you said, actually, worthy of a human life. Yeah.
Mm.
So showing your love, you know, through your action, because it's easy to say, oh, I love you, I care for you, I miss you. You know, some people say this and then they're not really there for you. They don't show it, and it just becomes empty words. It becomes a kind of sentiment. But there are other people who won't say that, you know, and especially actually in certain types of relationships, say a teacher-student relationship would never talk about love in the worldly sense, but the love is an unconditional kind of giving, and it's an action that actually tries to free beings from suffering, right? So on the spiritual path, we show our love, so to speak, through trying to help alleviate the suffering, not only of those we care about, but, you know, of all beings, because we care about the fact that people are suffering. So I think beneficent conduct is anything that helps alleviate that. Or at least it's motivated to, and of course it includes wisdom, because you have to know, right, whether that conduct is really helping, or perhaps coming from the wrong place, perhaps coming from, you know, wanting to endear yourself to somebody for a certain benefit, which is where the impartiality is important again, because if you want to sort of endear yourself to some people but not others, it could be that you have motives or agendas, you know. You want to get something out of it, whereas when somebody gives and is kind to all beings, then, you know, there's no personal motive. They're not invested in, you know, what they get, or they're not invested in any one particular person. Yeah. Appreciation, acceptance, caring, all of that. Yeah. But I think the conduct is talking about actual physical acts, you know, physical ways to look after each other. Like, for example, somebody came to the monastery today and they hadn't been before, but they brought all these little Buddha statues. And it wasn't about the statues. It was the fact that these belonged to this person. They were part of a collection that he'd been, you know, lovingly putting together for years. And he felt that he wanted to give them to a bhikkhuni monastery to show his appreciation and support. So it wasn't about the gift, but it was the conduct. It was the actual doing something, coming here to offer food. It's a conduct, you know, you're showing your care, you're showing your support, and it's much more touching, you know. Like my first teacher, Goenka, she used to say, yeah, everything starts in the mind, right? Our intentions, everything we do starts in the mind. We have to have the intention first. But when it becomes stronger, then it spills into speech. So the words, and then when it becomes stronger still, it spills over into action, you know. And I think that's one of the things people sometimes criticize some forms of Buddhism for. They say, well, you know, maybe they chant, maybe they, you know, use the verbal speech to try and alleviate suffering, but what do they actually do? You know, do they go out and alleviate poverty? Do they go out and, you know, feed the homeless and all the rest? And of course, not everybody can do everything, right? But it's sometimes not enough just to say something to another person. You need to actually do something as well, a little act of service. And that's how monasteries work, you know. It's the fact that someone will make you a cup of tea when you've forgotten to make one for yourself, or you're feeling really tired, or, you know, they'll give you some practical advice on something, or actually do a task to take it off your shoulders. This is really nice. Yeah.
Actually doing something.
Because that, it does involve a bit of sacrifice. Like that was what was touching today, that this person had not only given, but they'd sacrificed in the giving. You know, they're giving something up. It wasn't just they'd gone to the shop, and I mean, that's already wonderful, because you're giving up your time and your hard-earned money, or whatever, or gently earned money, but he'd sacrificed something that was dear to him, which was beautiful. Should we do the next one?
Okay.
Yeah, keep it
And
picking.
did anybody have anything to ask
Let's
or say, or no? Okay. Okay, so we'll keep going.
Yes.
Okay. Next one is a section called Sustaining Community. The first section was the formation of community. Now it's sustaining community. Okay. Aha. Right. The standard of authority. The Brahmin Vasakara, chief minister of Magadha, asked the Venerable Ananda, Is there, Master Ananda, any single monk who was appointed by the Buddha thus? He will be your refuge when I am gone, and whom you now have recourse to. There is no single monk who was appointed by the Blessed One thus. He will be your refuge when I am gone, and whom we now have recourse to. But is there, Master Ananda, any single monk who has been chosen by the Sangha and appointed by a number of elder monks thus? He will be our refuge after the Blessed One has gone, and whom you now have recourse to. There is no single monk who has been chosen by the Sangha and appointed by a number of elder monks thus. He will be our refuge after the Blessed One has gone, and whom we now have recourse to. But if you have no refuge, Master Ananda, what is the cause of your concord? We are not without a refuge, Brahmin. We have a refuge. We have the Dhamma as our refuge. You say, Master Ananda, that you have the Dhamma as your refuge? How should this be understood? Brahmin, the Blessed One prescribes the course of training for monks and has laid down the Patimokkha. On the Uposatha days, as many of us live in dependence upon a single village district, meet together in unison. And when we meet, we ask one who knows the Patimokkha to recite it. If a monk remembers an offense or a transgression while the Patimokkha is being recited, we deal with him according to the Dhamma in the way we have been instructed. It is not the worthy ones who deal with us. It is the Dhamma that deals with us. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's hard. Because all of us like to have some kind of person that we seek refuge, isn't it? We want to have someone we can just hang off and you tell me what to do and I'll just do it. But this makes, we like to have a God.
Nah. I don't like.
You don't like to have a God. It would be nice to have a God who just tells us, I don't know.
No,
yes.
I don't like that.
That's something
I like to do my thing. I'm good.
This is my top motivation. It helps with a lot of situations, but in situations, interactions, peace. Yeah. The Dhamma lives on when people come and go. And the Dhamma lives on when people come and go. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's principles of nature. It's principles of nature, isn't it? It's cause and effect. It's a process that will remain timeless. That's why one of the qualities of the Dhamma is akalika, timeless. Yeah. Yeah. And you can come and see it yourself, the Buddha said. So it's available to be understood. Whether or not there's anybody, even proclaiming it, it's possible to observe laws of nature within ourselves, right? Of course, we can observe the laws of nature outside, externally, but to actually observe the laws of nature inside. So to look inside and know what's beneficent conduct, for example, by the results it gives to the heart, like, whether something's come from the right place or it's been mixed motives, and it may have different results, not always, but in yourself, don't you, whether you've kind of lied to yourself about that. So we have this amazing innate ability as human beings to know what's right and what's wrong, what's ethical and what's not, what's harmful and what's not, because we're the first people to be harmed. If we think uncharitable thoughts towards another person, we really don't feel good about ourselves. There's some struggle, there's some inner struggle in our mind. It's like, oh, but they did this, but why did they do that? And we kind of wrangle with it, isn't it? But then when we just understand, oh, okay, that happened because the person was maybe deluded or they were struggling with something, and basically because we're suffering because we've lost the path at that moment, then there can be a lot more understanding and acceptance. So yeah, peace is one of the qualities of the Dhamma, of course. It's the quality of Nibbana, actually. The highest peace, the highest happiness. So anything that leads to happiness, right? The Buddha actually said, how can you know it's the Dhamma? How can you know it's the Vinaya? Because it leads to peace. It leads to insight, abhinya, like deep knowledge. It leads to sambodhi, which means enlightenment, and nibbana, things fading as well. And a kind of turning away, a kind of disengagement from the world. So this is how you can know it's the Dhamma. And disengagement doesn't mean you don't act in the world, but it means you're not so much clinging to the things that happen.
Yeah. I guess the thing about, we were saying the other day when Olivia was here, that the good thing about studying the Dhamma is that you don't have to discover it for yourself, spend a lot of suffering going, oh my God, why didn't someone tell me that all this time? When you're suffering. So that's the beauty of learning the Dhamma. Learn, for example, that having angry thoughts is suffering. Having thoughts that, saying mean things is suffering. So it's great to actually learn that, because some of us are slow learners, and it's, we might have parents who didn't particularly tell us that. So that's the greatness of having access to the Dhamma, that we learn these principles.
Right.
They're in lists we can read and go, okay, that's a good idea to follow that one.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually came at it the other way. I came at it through the practice, and then only learned those things in the context of meditation. So I think it has to be both. Like on the one hand, it's good to see those, but actually you can get to that through the practice with good teachings. Say in a retreat situation where you are just sitting with yourself and you're watching your mind and what it's doing, and whether it's leading you to peace or whether it's leading you to entanglement in your own mind, and the way you're reacting to sensations in your body. Right? You can easily see the difference between reacting with aversion and just like investigating whatever's arising and taking an interest in it, and remaining curious about the experience. There's a big difference. One leads to suffering and one leads to a kind of untying of that suffering. So I think yes, the Dhamma's in books, but ultimately it's inside. It has to be internalized. That's where the actual benefit comes. And I think that's the difference between the Buddha as a teacher, or as maybe what's been preserved, the teachings of the Buddha that have been preserved, compared to the teachings of other religions, which do come across more as lists of do's and don'ts. Because I actually think most people know not to be hungry. They know not to, say, drink alcohol or take drugs, but it's the how to not do that we don't have. So for me, the Buddhism, if anything, is more than a philosophy or a religion. It's a path. It's something we can actually walk on, and put into practice. There's a kind of how-to manual, and you have to actually use it's good to read the manual, but if you don't actually I don't know, it's like reading the manual of how to make a cupboard. You can know how to do it, but until you've actually done it, you don't really know what it means. And you don't have a cupboard either.
But you still need the manual. I think so. It helps.
It helps.
Yeah.
Totally, you need some teachings, totally.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that that alone won't do it.
Yeah.
It just won't. It won't change the habit patterns of the mind.
No, of course not. No, of course not. Yeah. I'm just thinking, I guess there are, sadly, if you're born to a family of the whole family, drug dealers or whatever, You just don't have that in your psyche.
Yeah.
You don't have that ethical conduct as part of your
Yeah.
it doesn't quite click that it's not a
Yeah. Certainly we need examples, that's right. But I still think there's something in the human heart that knows.
Yeah, deep down. Yeah, we do know that it's not quite right.
Yeah. Hi Diana, nice to see you. Sarah's asking, what is the main manual for Buddhists? So the Buddha's teachings are in the Sutta Pitaka, which are the Majjhima, Digga, basically the middle, the long, the short length discourses, and the connected discourses and the numerical discourses. So there are, you can Google that easily and find what they are. And yeah, I mean, this book is compiled from those suttas. So these kind of anthologies are much easier sometimes to make a start with because they're themed, you know, according to certain topics that might be of interest. Another one that's an anthology is In the Buddha's Words, I think, which is slightly bigger, and that has a lot of other suttas that are grouped according to particular themes, including stories of the Buddha's life as well, like sort of autobiographical, or not autobiographical, but biographical stories of the Buddha's life, and then of course his main teachings.
That's also by Bhikkhu Bodhi.
Yeah. You can look them up. You can look them up online. So Sean says, to me it's very subtle and involves a lot of skillfulness to be that aware. That's right. Yeah, it does. But we can develop our subtlety and our skillfulness, right? It's not that we don't have it, it's just that we haven't trained it yet. And you know, sometimes we train it and then sometimes we become coarse again because the activities of life are kind of coarse, and you know, we move out into the world and we lose that connection with what's going on inside, but it's always there to return to. So it's just a matter of training our mindfulness on our inner world, and the mind by itself becomes more subtle, especially when there are no distractions and you just have, you know, immersion in a retreat situation. That's why retreats are so powerful, and you can come out of retreat afterwards. You might not feel like you've been meditating particularly deeply, but then you realize, gosh, I just don't do those things that were harming me anymore. Like in my case, I just didn't care anymore about going to parties, or not that I did a lot of it at all, but still, it was like there was no urge for it. There was no, and I didn't want to kind of spoil the equanimity and the peace in my mind by even engaging in too much listening to music, even though it's not wrong. It was like, I don't want to agitate my mind because I enjoy that subtlety. I enjoy that kind of awareness that I can have just by being present to whatever's around me, you know, and not escaping all the time. I actually found, I guess that was what it was. I didn't need the escapes or the distractions so much anymore. So yeah, it becomes a fascinating process. So it's not just that it's hard. I mean, it's hard in the beginning, but I think the more you get into it and the subtler the mind gets, the more fascinating it becomes, because you start to see the subtleties as well. And I mean, on my retreats, it's why I'm a nun. I actually, it's why I took ordination, let's say, renounced, because I just felt more and more fascinated. I didn't want to stop the process. Yay, we get to hear from Diana now.
Diana, can you unmute, please?
Yes, I've unmuted. I'll lower my hand. Hi, Venerable Canda. Hello, everyone. Hello, Venerable Upeka. It's nice to see you both. I missed last week, and I'm sorry I'm late today. I'm taking a desert plants Zoom 6-week course, so they overlap. But last time I was here, we were on page 113, and now we're on page 116.
Yeah.
And I see on page 114 that there was a section called Like Attracts Like. And I'm wondering if it'd be okay if I asked a question about that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. In this section, and also was treated in the one right above, beings come together because like attracts like. And that's interesting to me for many reasons. One of those is when I was young and learning about macrobiotics. My teacher said to me when he caught me eating a croissant, yin craves yin. So I guess that's a universal principle applied to many things in life. And here the Buddha is talking about how we come together with people that are like us naturally. But what about when we come together, perhaps by accident, perhaps not, with people who turn out to be unlike us?
Right.
In other words, we, what does it say first? Well, you think somebody is one way and then they turn out to be another and they're not like you, and then you're involved and you're twisted up and then you've got to get out of it. Is there any treatment of that situation or guidance that you would be able to offer? Thank you.
Well, I think, you know, to find this kind of guidance and to get the context of what the Buddha's talking about, we need to read widely. So the thing that comes into mind now is just how the Buddha said, it's actually from the, is it the Sutta Nipata, where he says, you know, if you don't find one equal or better, then it's better to walk alone. And I think that is probably true in the case of, say, people that we associate a lot with, you know, people who are actually intimate with us, like spiritual friends or close friends that we choose. Because obviously we're not always going to meet other people on the path. And in our role, like as monastics, most of the time we're meeting people who are maybe just starting on the path, or maybe who haven't, you know, got their sila together yet. And if we just said, well, sorry, you know, you're not as like holy as me, I mean, that wouldn't give us much scope for growing, and it wouldn't give anyone else much help either. So I think it's probably a matter of how far we associate with people, you know. I mean, here the Buddha's talking about specifically about how to form intentional community. So intentionally we come together with like-minded people because we share the same values. You know, that's why Buddhist monasteries attract other Buddhists or people that are interested in Buddhism. And then we have certain principles that we follow together. But I think in relationships where it's less balanced, say, and where one is you know, not maybe, I don't know, as virtuous as we are, or we're not as virtuous as they are, it depends whether they're bringing you down, and it depends if they're doing that over time, because sometimes the opposite side is you can influence another positively, and I think where there's a possibility for that, it's good to stay. Or at least maybe they're not your, you know, they're not your spouse or something because you want to marry someone, or if you want to marry someone who's an equal, who's a partner, right? Who has strengths that are maybe different from yours, but still you have similar, you know, qualities. But otherwise, I think, yeah, sometimes we can influence people who don't have certain qualities to be more like us, or vice versa, right? But then if you're in a relationship with someone and it's actually bringing you down, and it's actually sort of maybe gaslighting or, you know, abusing and harming you, then I'm pretty sure that the rest of the Buddha's advice is to walk away. You know, he doesn't say just stay if a situation is harmful. He actually says leave it, whether that's a monastery where the wholesome qualities are not increasing, or whether that's a relationship, you know. He would say, you know, it's compassionate to you to walk away. So compassion shouldn't only go to the other person. And I mean, I've been in situations, especially in my leadership role, where, you know, there are people that I can see are troubled, and my instinct is to help and to really try and support them at first. But after a while, I realized not only is it getting me down, sometimes it doesn't help them because it's not the right kind, it's not the kind of help they need. So you're not necessarily doing people a favor, even if you're well-intentioned, by staying in something that's not healthy, I think. Yeah. Did you want to, I don't know if that really answers the precise point, but.
It's a wonderful answer. Thank you.
And get together with like-minded people, it's wonderful. I mean, that's why we sort of start monasteries, really, to make places where obviously we'll all be different, and it's great if we are, because then we can learn on one another's strengths and weaknesses and support each other in that. But generally, you know, people are kind of on the same path, or they're trying to, they've got an inclination towards service, towards solitude as well. So it's one of the joys actually of starting a place. Yeah. Otherwise, you know, we have to just go to places that are already established, but we can start our own little mini places too, even as lay people. You can invite some people around and meditate together, or listen to a talk together. Yeah. I'm very happy in our community that people are doing that together, not only with the monastics in the center. Yeah. So we went back to that one. We've only got another 10-15 minutes. So I think if anyone has more questions or things they'd like to share about their lives, like maybe there's something here that's, I don't know, that you'd like to share, or that you're struggling with in your life, that's maybe you think is related or not directly related. Or anything about practice that you'd like to explore. It's a good opportunity to do that. I don't know which page we're on. 16?
Yeah.
Okay, Nikki's got something. Cool.
Nikki, can I ask you to unmute, please?
Unmute, done it. Oh, I hope this comes out all right. My words are really muddled with lack of estrogen too, so I get embarrassed because it's recorded. I think, God, I don't know, I would never listen to myself again. There was, so I've been listening to a lot of talks. I have done for a few years, and I'm really drawn to, so let me see if I can say this. So if somebody's experienced trauma, whatever that looks like, I think probably because I'm becoming more aware of this, it feels like sometimes there's two parts of me. There's sometimes the part of me that responds from the trauma, and the part of me that responds from, if you say like, Nikki, that is the person that I would be if I hadn't gone through those experiences. And I know I'm not the only one, you know, and I get that, and it's not about that, is it? But there's this, it makes it very difficult for me to go out into places where there's people. I think I just feel scared all the time. I think I feel scared of people generally. So I'm okay in one-to-one situations, but when I sort of go out, it becomes very frightening. And I wasn't aware of that. I just thought people were horrible, and I thought it was my mind telling me, like this angry, frightened mind, that everyone's out to get me. I don't think it is that. I think that's what I'm trying to say, is that I don't think it's personal anymore. Wonderful. Yeah, I don't really know what to do with that, so I'm just going to. It's a bit weird because I've got a friend who I keep saying this to, and bless him, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. So I'm sort of trying to talk about this deep stuff, and it's like he looks at me, he goes, "What are you on about?" It's even when you said about like attracts like, I had a really vivid memory about, I think someone used that really horribly to me once, you know, like really negatively. Oh yeah, you know, it's, if I was in a, like, particularly in a dangerous situation from past life, like, it was I'd attract the abuse. So that's what came to my mind when I heard that, and I thought, yeah, it's you know, and I'm very pleased I'm in a safer place than them, but I can see how words, you know, can be very powerful. That was from years ago, I remember that. So I think I probably just wanted to say that rather than ask a question. I don't know what the question is, really, but yeah, I think the question is, what do I do with that?
That's amazing, Nikki.
Oh, is it? Did that make sense?
Oh, totally. I mean, to actually be able to realize that, you know, your response to the world is trauma based. It's not your fault. It's based on things that are real, that have happened to you, that anybody would respond that way. And, you know, rather than that the whole world's out to get you and that people are awful, because many people who are still stuck in their trauma do feel that way. And it's understandable, you know, because how do you know whether somebody else is going to do the same thing, especially if it was somebody close to you that maybe abused you, then why wouldn't anyone else? So of course, you know, whatever we experience in our life gives us a perception, a view of the world. So if we've suffered, you know, a lot of cruelty or unkindness, then for us, the world is unkind. The world is our experience is the world, right? So the fact that you can see that's, yeah, your whole worldview is changing is to me sounds like very powerful healing, actually. Very powerful healing. I guess if you're saying you don't know what to do with it, I would just suggest to be very gentle, because, you know, the old trauma will come up sometimes and maybe cause you to doubt that again and think, no, actually, maybe they are all horrible. So just very gently let people in, and very gently maybe go to places where, you know, you're in around more people at a time, and maybe with people that you are actually close to, you know, go with a best friend or something. And you don't have to either, you know.
Yeah.
It can even be just that shift inside. So I think that sounds really wonderful, and hopefully quite a relief for you.
Yeah, brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. I wish I was there, but you know, thank you.
Right now you are.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think it's good that you didn't travel so many hours on the roads, actually. It's exhausting. Yeah. So we'll come to Sean just as the last person before we end.
Hello, can you hear me okay? My has been a bit, so if I drop out. So yeah, it was just two things I wanted to bring up. One was something that happened today, was that I had a situation where my reaction was, I didn't feel it was at work, this person are more senior to them, and I felt that potentially they weren't respecting what I was saying and maybe didn't trust in me. And my reaction was, well, you're more junior, I've got more experience, etc., etc. And it just popped into mind so I'm reading also the book on the disciples, was it The Great Disciples of the Buddha? When Sariputta, a child, pointed out to him that one of his robes, excuse me, wasn't tucked properly or something. And he very humbly sort of said, thank you, Ajahn. And it kind of just made me think, wait a minute, am I reacting here? Is this my ego? And also, is there an element of truth in the reaction of that person? And it just kind of took me out of the situation, and it just gave me a little bit of insight. And really, I just thought I'd share that, because it was just one of those moments. It was almost a bit like, aha, I'm caught up. And so I thought it was quite a nice moment. What I also just wanted to mention was I found that since I've more so been coming to these things, and since November, etc., I've what you were saying, withdrawn more from those normal distractions, and I felt that I felt there's been a lot of suffering, actually. There's been a lot of up and downs, and I think it might just be that I'm more aware and I'm less distracted. And because I've taken a lot of my distractions out, I don't have a way of blocking it out.
Absolutely.
So I was just wondering if you've got any recommendation. I wonder whether I've done a bit too much too quickly as well. It's or whether it's just part of the process. And I guess, you know, everyone's different, so it's for me to work it out partly as well. I don't know if you've got any comments on that, or any suggestions, really.
Yes. I agree with everything. I think it's part of the process. I think it's true that you were probably suffering even more before. There were maybe even more ups and downs that we just instinctively respond to by distracting ourselves, or by pushing it away through overeating or binging on whatever, internet or YouTube. And this is why monastic life, some people were saying one time, it must be much easier than being a layperson. because you're taking away the distractions and to the point where you cannot go and do those things. I mean, you wouldn't just plunge straight into it, but you actually give up money, you give up being able to drive, you can't go anywhere, you can't go for a coffee, or you can't watch telly, you know. So you have to be really used to your own mind and working with your own mind, because you're not going to get away from it, you know, in monastic life. And you'll be called to be in the public eye and to be around people, and, you know, when you're not feeling like doing that. And, you know, you need to be relating always along the principles of Dhamma. So, yeah, I do think that when we start to practice, I've had the same experience. I can start to feel that, oh, maybe my emotions are even more like, not even more, but, you know, maybe they're more kind of up and down, or maybe, yeah, like I notice all these tendencies that I didn't see before, and you can feel you're regressing, but it's actually a massive progress to start to see the way we tick. It's a massive progress. It's the stuff that's, you know, covered over for most of us, and it's one of the reasons many people don't want to go on retreat. They're too scared about, you know, having to confront that. So it's great. I do think it's possible on the spiritual path to go too quickly and to do too much at once, but I don't think, my instinct is, and I don't know you well, but that's probably not the case for you, because I think you're very reflective. I think you have a very integrated life, and, you know, work life, family life, and you're, you know, reading the suttas, so you're trying to really understand the foundations of the practice. And yeah, even the Venerable Sariputta is becoming your teacher today. So I think that's not, yeah, I think in your case it's wonderful. You know, you're making a regular practice, and making sure it involves service as well. So to me, that's integration. Yeah. You know, maybe don't go on a 2-month retreat next time, but I don't think you will. I don't think you're like that.
Not yet.
Trying to practice the Eightfold Path. So what does this mean? You have to read shampoo bottles
when you're bored on retreat.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You end up reading all the small print on everything. It's really a phenomenon.
All the ingredients on your medicine bottles.
Yeah. Yes, it's a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon. Otherwise, you create stories about, you know, I don't know, the person sitting next to you, what maybe they're like and what they do and what you think about them. Yeah, the mind will, you know, it'll do its thing.
I start talking to trees.
Do you start talking to trees?
Yes.
Oh, really? What do you say to the tree?
I have long conversations.
Oh, really? That's so sweet.
Yeah. Start going slowly.
Do they answer?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. It's true though, you know, I mean, I can laugh at that, but I was talking to all my animals on my 6-month retreat. I was talking to the birds. They had names. I mean, I talked to my lizards. I talked to the kangaroos. I mean, they knew my voice. You know, I mean, they knew me. They used to come close actually on purpose sometimes, which was really sweet, especially when the male was like around. One time I was coming back to my kuti, and the kangaroo was quite close to the kuti. So I expected that as I was coming back, it would move away, because usually that's what happened. And to my amazement, I was walking up to the kuti. They came closer. And then I realized it's because there was a male somewhere nearby, and they were glad that I was back, and they just wanted to, like, it was so sweet. It was so sweet. They're coming in. Especially the one with the baby. That was Tawny, Fawny and Newborny. The 3 of them. Yeah, I could recognize the different faces. I had a whole families there. There were the Big Ears family as well. And there were the like Starry, Stella, and they had the little white bit. So I had my families. So yeah, we're all a bit mad really. But you don't, you know, take yourself so seriously either. And you just, you just find connection everywhere. All right, that's too much disclosure, isn't it? But there we go. You're all very open with us, so we've been open with you. So I don't know, does someone want to speak? They either have to do it or not.
Yes. Yeah, today's Sutta discussion is offered on a donation basis. As you know, it's in the part of the generosity, and the contributions that you will be able to make are very gratefully received, and will help to support the day-to-day running of the Vihara in Oxford and the development of England's first monastery where women can train towards full bhikkhuni ordination. And I will put a link about the donations, and not only the donations, if you are capable, you can provide a food dana to venerables by visiting the Vihara. And if you are not able to visit the Vihara, also there are several more other ways to get involved. There is supermarket deliveries. There are also a couple of groups, WhatsApp groups, to provide food when no booking is made. If you are able, you can volunteer for one-off work at Vihara. So I'm going to put an email, team@anukampa.org, so you can contact them if you think that you can help, and then they will guide you. And there are several events we keep updating in the events page in the Anukampa Bhikkhuni website. You can see them, and we also update our Facebooks. Thank you.
Thank you, Minori. Yes, we had a wonderful trust meeting here, actually. Not really trust meeting, but a few volunteers as well, just last week. And Minori was here and some other people were here, and it was so lovely. I don't know, we have to do a bigger volunteer meeting sometime. It was a lovely day. We were talking all about kind action, giving rather than hoarding, and simplicity, and so many things. And we all got so energized by the end of the day. It was wonderful. So yeah, we are starting to have more visitors. So hopefully some of you can come visit as well. Also, you can stay with us for some time if you wish. We're getting pretty full, so if you want to be here while the two of us are here, which is much nicer, then yeah, either you have to come soon or else you have to lobby for Venerable Upeka to stay. I don't know which you prefer.
I say nothing.
Okay, that's up to you. All right, so we better let you go. And thank you very much for being pretty awesome, and for all your support always. It's really heartwarming, really heartwarming. Yeah, I mean, it's why we're here, you know. Take care, everyone. We can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, maybe.